Welcome back, everybody. This is Ron again with Big Wizard Racing and running through our second video of the Paint with Patterns series, which is going to be focusing on layers and the patterns. We're going to go through some basics today of how to set up, um, like a little bit about layers. We're going to talk about layers and what they do. We're going to talk about creating pre-made groups and different groups in GIMP. And we're going to pick some templates. We'll work on learning how to use some basic tools. We're going to create some layers. And then we're going to go into some other tools and how to start getting your paint the way you want it. So we'll get working on that here as we go. So welcome. All right, we're going to start off with a little demo on layers. And I apologize, my computer screen is a little glitchy on this. So hopefully it won't work out too bad. All right. This is Word, and it's just a document with some images on it. Okay, but these images are layered on top of each other. When you paint a car, the top layer is the one you're going to see first. Okay, so this little hexagon here, or is the top layer. It's only five-sided. Pentagon is the top layer of these particular layers. I've got a triangle in here. I got a circle in here. I got a parallel trapezoid in here. And I got a little pentagon in there. And they are layered, right? So the one on the top covers the one below it. You can change the order of the layers, and you can pull the trapezoid to the front one at a time, or you can put it backwards one at a time. These are layers, okay? And this is kind of how GIMP works as you're painting. Just think of this as your car. So if your car was yellow and you had black stripes and green stripes and some orange stripes on it, but you wanted the orange to cover the black and the green, this is how it would look. If you wanted the black and green to cover the orange, you would push this backwards. Okay? And that creates different shapes and different color patterns with the colors. So just remember that as we go on, that with GIMP, we're going to be working with layers. Now, when you get a car pattern, each car pattern is its own layer. So if we were to turn this layer off, you would see the layer below it. Okay, and then so forth as you go through the layers. But we're going to work with our layer that we have, all right? And we're going to create new layers with individual sections of this layer. There's also a bunch of stuff that's done for you before you start. You can see the decals go on and off the car. You can see the tape on the rear spoiler, which is very, very small. I'll have to find that one. Color change decals. These are the little Goodyears and Camaros and little logos. You can change them. That's the base paint, and then there's a black one to go over it. There's windshield banners, which with car decal on. Not sure how much of that one we can see. Something's covering it. There's a camera bubble, which is right here in the back window. Shift knob. You just have to find these parts. And I have another trick on helping you find them. But just know that all these are pre-mades. Okay, these are what I call the pre-mades. So to save a lot of confusion and to help me turn them on and off while I'm painting, I'm going to make a new layer group. These over here on your right over here where we're scrolling up and down, these are your layers. They can be expanded. They can be shrunk back up. They can be, the order can be changed on them. You just move them around. You can make groups. This here, car patterns, is a group, and each one of these patterns is a group in it. So if I turn off the entire group, it turns them all off. Turn on the group, it turns them all on, and you can turn them on and off with the eyeball in the blue column. And whatever one is on the top is the one you're going to see. The highest visible one is the one you're going to see. If this one's on the top but it's not visible, you can't see it. If I turn it on, that's the one you see. Okay, so these are the layers, and that's how you turn on and off layers. Down here in the bottom, there's some tools to work with your layers. These are also under the layer commands. You can do new layer group, duplicate layer, merge down, delete layer. Those hot or shortcut keys are right here. You can also move them up and down with the keys. So if I wanted to move this one down, I can move it down. All right, with those little buttons there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of layers, layer groups. And I do this for every one of my paints. I'm going to do it once in this video, and I'm not going to do it again. It's just going to be there. So this is your chance to check it out and see how I do it. I do 3 folders. One's called pre-mades. Okay. And then I do another one called logos. And then I do a third one called base paints. Okay. This is reverse order, but I do this because I'm going to move a bunch of stuff into pre-mades. All these stuff that are pre-made by iRacing for me, I'm going to put in this pre-made folder. It doesn't change anything on the way they display. As you notice, when I'm moving them, they aren't changing on the screen. I'm just moving the layer into a layer group. All right, and I'm also going to grab one more layer that's up here in the turn off before exporting called car mandatory, and I'm going to grab that and stick it down here on the top of them. All right, and this is why I do that. Now, for all these things, all these layers that are pre-made for me that I may or may not use, I can shrink them all up into one little box and I can turn them off. While I'm painting, it's a whole lot easier to paint with all that stuff out of the way. Okay, you got your grill, your lights, your gas filler, all the little stickers and contingencies and banners and all those things on the top of the car, gone. Okay, out of the way. I'm painting the car. I'm not going to change the pre-mades. Okay, below pre-mades, I put logos. Logos are where I'm going to stick all of the logos I want on the car. And then below all that, remember I said the top layer is seen, the bottom layers are not. Below all that is where I put the base paints. Okay, and these are my versions of the patterns, is what this is. So I go to my pattern, I go to my select tool, and there's lots of select tools. We'll go through those here in just a second. I pick an area, and this is why I turn on the selection editor so I can see what I've picked right here in the top corner. Great little tool so you know what you have. Do I have the green? Select none. Or do I have the blue? I can tell here what I have. And then if I say, oh, I don't want to change the color of that, I can quickly and easily remove it by not doing that, by removing it from the selection. And now I can see the little Camaro isn't selected. All right. So now that I have my layer groups made and I have my layers in place, I'm going to need those car patterns because I need the one I'm working on. I'll move it to the top. Pre-mades are turned off. Okay. If you turn off paintable area, you turn off everything. So that's not going to help you. That's why I put them in little individual boxes. So now this is a layer group called pre-mades, and all my pre-made stuff that was made by iRacing is sitting in there. Logos I'll stick in here. Base paints I'm going to put in here, and base paints are going to be sections that I create from these patterns. Okay, so now that I have my blue selected, I'm going to go up to base paints. I'm going to add a new layer. Now, one thing a lot of people will do is they'll just change the color right here on this layer. But when you're done, you just have a new paint layer, but it's still a single layer, and you can't change any of it without changing all of it. So I'm going to grab the blue layer, okay, and I'm not going to take Camaro, and I'm not going to take Goodyear. I'm just going to get the blue stripes. So there's a few tools you can use. Let me start over with select none, and I'll show you how to do this. Now this is the color tool. This selects by colors, okay? Now whenever you pick a selection tool, that's one of the select tools you use to pull colors off or pull something out of an image. You're going to select by color or you're going to select by fuzzy select. And when you're down here, there's a threshold bar. Okay, when you get this open, down below you have a threshold bar. Now the threshold bar lets you kind of get an edge as you're cutting something in or out. When you zoom in on most things, the edge is not a clean cut green line versus red line. There's kind of a merge of color in here. So if I put my threshold way down here and I select, I'm only going to select what's perfectly the color I choose. If I put my threshold way up here around 100, select none, and I try that again, you see I got a lot more green. All right, so I get a lot more of that stripe. And this is the fuzzy select. Fuzzy select is when you want to pick one specific area that doesn't touch another area. Okay, and you do them one at a time with this tool right here. Down here, you can tell it what type of mode you want. You got a mode that says, whatever I pick, I want that to be my selection. I want this to be my selection. That deselects the previous area. I want this to be my selection. You see how that's deselecting and then reselecting a new area. If you do this one, it'll add to it. I want this section, this section, this section, and this section. And you see how it just kind of accumulatively adds those sections together. Then there's a third box which says, I don't want this section. I don't want that section. So you can actually remove a selection. And that's how we're going to remove the Goodyear and the Camaro logos from when we pick the blue. And then there's a fourth one, and this one is intersect with current selection, which I don't even know how to do. I haven't used it before. These three are the ones I use. Pick just this one, add to me, take away from me. Okay, those are your selection modes. There's your threshold differences. I've showed you a little bit about that. This is a fuzzy select, so like I said, it's just going to pick one thing and anything that color attached to it. So if I go select none, and I go to fuzzy select my addition tool, and I grab this green section, it's going to grab all that green around in between, but it's not going to grab any green that's completely cut off. You see, so it didn't get the green down here in the front, but it got everything else in that area. It didn't get any green over here, just the hood, just what's directly attached and connected. That's your fuzzy select tool. This is your select by color tool. And what I do is with this one is I put the threshold up around 100, and then I select the entire area and color that I want. All right, so let's start over, select none, and we're going to select the blue. Okay, so it picked up. You can see what it's got right over here. It's got the colors on the sides. Excuse me. It has the Goodyear logos and it has the Camaro logos. So to get these sections out, I'm going to square select, and I'm going to remove from selection. Look at that, subtract from selection. So I'm going to grab the Camaro, take that out. I'm going to grab the Goodyear that I can easily get and take that out. Then I'm going to use another tool, which is this one here called the free select tool. And I'm going to go in here, and I got to make sure I'm on the don't copy part, right? And then another thing you need to know is how to zoom in and out. You can sit here and go view, zoom, and change the zoom. If you're doing that to put everything back, like when I say fit image in window, I want to do that. But if I'm just zooming in and out, you'll see me do this a lot. You hold down the control key and you scroll with your mouse. And that's allowing you to zoom in and out. Okay. So fuzzy, this is now the freehand select tool. You can hold it and draw it if you want, but I just use the dots. I kind of like dot to dot this. I just want to get the rest of this selection off. Boom, that's out. And then to clear that, I hit the move. I just change tools and then go back to it. Okay. And then I got to do one down here. And you just make a shape around it and it clears that, but all these other blue stripes are still there. So now I've got the Goodyears off. I've got the Camaro off. Let's go view, fit in window, zoom, fit in window. And you can see that I have the blue selection created. Now, I want to make a new layer. I don't want to just change this layer. I want to make a whole new layer so I can change it to any color I want later on. So I'm going to click in base paints, because you always have to remember where you're highlighted. Your tools will work on the layer that you're highlighted on. So in here, I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to call this secondary stripe, because that's what it is. Make sure you use good names for your layers so you can just quickly go through them and know what you're looking at. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to click on them and try to figure out which one's where. Very important when you get the logos. As you put them all over the car, you don't remember which one's where. All right, so secondary stripe is this my secondary stripe pattern. Now I'm going to fill this with a color. I'm going to go to my fill tool. These are the basic standard tools. Fill tool is a bucket. And I'm going to pick a color. This would be easy to do, like say a secondary color might be good as white. So I'm going to pick a white color, which is 6 Fs. Any color you have, if you push the bar all the way to the top left corner here in the color selector, you push it all the way up there, you get white. Okay. So now my foreground color is white. I'm using my fill tool. My fill tool type is foreground color fill. I'm going to fill the whole entire selection, not just like right where I click, but the whole thing. And I'm going to fill in the blue with white. Okay. Now that is sitting in this layer. You can't really see it because it's pretty small, but that is inside this layer. Okay, so if I select none and clear that, you can see it's green and white now instead of green and blue. But I can make that go away simply by clicking on it. I have just made a layer of the paint that I can do whatever I want to with. I can now go into that layer and I can change it to any color I want. And I just have to select it by color, pick up the white, and fill it with any color I choose. Select none. It's now its own layer. It can stand on its own without the rest of the car there. Okay, let's turn the car back on. Let's turn the secondary stripe off because I'm not really working with that right now. And let's go to select the green. Okay, so go back down to our pattern. We're going to color select and we're going to grab the green. This time though, we're going to really push that threshold really high, right? We're going to push it up around 150. Now, the reason I do this is because when you look down in here, like I said before, between the blue and the green, they're not a perfect line. There's a little bit of variation in there. So what you want to do is you want to make one layer a little bit bigger than the other layer. Because what that'll allow the paint to do is it'll allow it to overlap and not leave a little gap in there where you get goofy little lines and goofy little icons and logos. You know, you'll see them, they're little specks. And you think, oh, that's only a pixel or two, but when it's on the car, it stands out like a sore thumb. So it's a really good idea to, crank up that threshold on the color you know you can flood with. And then when you grab that area, you're going to get more of it. Okay, see how it's going to grab all the way deep into that? And I got a lot more stuff that I didn't want. So I probably want to tone it back a little because I got all these extra pieces I don't want to take with me. So I'm going to select none again. I'm going to pull this down around 120-ish, and I'm going to try that again and see how it does. Okay, much better, okay? I got most of the color, and I didn't get all the extra stuff. So if you want to play with it a little bit, you can push it up a little higher. See how high you can push that threshold before you start picking up extra parts. Looks like I got one part here and one part back here. So easy enough, right? We know how to remove a section. So it picked up something right here behind this hood. So it's actually something in this layer that's behind. You can't even really see it. So let's go to our deselection. And we're going to deselect that. You see how we're taking it right out of there? Just doing it with small chunks so I don't wipe out any of my hood here. And then I got this thing back here. Boom, gone. So now on my select tool, I can see what I got. Oh, and guess what else it picked up? Picked up one of these Pitboard logo things down here in the bottom. So I can take that out because I don't really want to change the color of that right now. So now you have a layer that is just the green parts. But we haven't made the layer yet, right? So you go into base paints, you create a new layer, and this is going to be called, we'll just call it hood. Hood color, because it's the main color of the hood. All right, I'm going to move this below secondary stripe. All right, and then I'm going to fill it in with a color. Let's go ahead and use white since we almost used it last time and we didn't. So we'll go fill, foreground color, whole selection, and now it's white. All right. Then, since this is really all there is on this paint job, this is really the whole entire pattern. There's this and a whole bunch of red. So we're going to turn our secondary stripe back on, and we're going to turn the car patterns off. We're going to select none. Don't forget to select none because that'll really wig out your car. And then we're going to go pick a new base color. So from here, we're going to duplicate. Here's the duplicate key. Create a duplicate layer, add it to the image. Okay, so we're going to duplicate that base layer. We're going to turn one of them off, and we're going to drag one of them up. So you can just drag this, and it'll scroll up for you till you get to base paints, and I'll drop it right at the bottom. And this is my base paint. Now I've completely eliminated the need for anything below it because this fills the entire area. If the mask were off, which is a tool that iRacing uses to help you see the shape of the car, the whole thing's just blue. Okay, if I turn off my secondary stripe and my hood color, this is the base paint. That's the base copy. It's just one color. So what color would go good with like a medium blue and a white? We could try like a purple maybe. See how that would look. We're going to fill up this. Make sure you're on your layer. And then we're going to bring in the other colors. Actually don't like that at all. You should really have in mind what you want your car to kind of look like before you get started. That might look pretty good. And we can easily throw it on the car and see how it looks. We'll turn on the pre-mades, which gives us all these things. I'm going to turn that mask back on because it's easier to see things. There's also another tool in here called the wire tool that helps you know where things are as you're placing things. Great for working with the logos. We'll turn it off for right now, though, because it looks terrible when you send it to your car. All right, base paints is all we got really open here. Let's go to the car. And, oh, wait, we need to save it. File, export to car. Remember where I said we did this last time? We'll do it one more time. Export or export as. You go to Documents, iRacing, Paint, and then find the car you're dealing with, which in this one is the stock car Camaro. You open that up, and then you have to save the file as a TGA file. So make sure it's a TGA file. Targa image. And then you have to name it car underscore and your account number. Because you're logged into iRacing, your account number is the car that's on the screen according to iRacing. All right, so we're going to export that out. It's going to say it's already there. Do you want to replace it? Yes, I do. Hit export, and now my car's blue. When I refresh it, Control R. Okay, so now I have the blue car with the white and blue stripes. Okay, all right, that is how you push a layer, change the colors, make it your own, and push it out to the car. It's pretty simple. It's really not that complicated. So now we're going to jump into the next section, which is let's use a gradient tool. This is another one that I've used quite a bit when I do paints. You'll see it a lot of times where people change the color from one end of the car to the other. Let's go ahead and change this base copy from this kind of like sky blue to a faded, maybe this sky blue to a red, maybe. So we'll pick a different background color, and we'll go with like a, let's go with like a dark red, like maybe something, let's see, something down to this raspberry band. Okay, and then we're going to use the gradient tool. This is the gradient tool. It's going to use, okay, it's going to use your foreground and your background. And you can pick which kind of gradient you want to do, right? Forward or backward, reverse. You can change the shape of the gradient. You can make it so it goes cones out. You can make it so it's linear. You can make it repeat. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Play around with it. But this is the basic gradient tool. I'm going to go from front to back on the car. And we're not going to keep this, and you'll see why. Because what you really need to do is you need to create a selection of the car itself. See, look at that's the front and the rear of the car. So we really don't want those in it. Base copy. We had it on deselect, so we have to put it back to select. That's why it wouldn't go. We're going to select just the car. And I don't know what this is yet, so we'll have to see what damage we do there. We're going to select the car, and we're on the base copy. You can turn off the pre-mades, make it easier to see. go to your gradient fill, and then we're going to fill it. I'm going to fill it from red on the nose to the blue on the back. Okay, so you just drag your mouse from front to back. And if you want the red darker, you stop a little sooner. Okay, you can move these around afterwards. You can push the fade. Okay, if you want to do something crazy, you can do. It's going to rotate your area that you've selected by what you're telling it to do with the fade. Okay, that's where the red goes. So I'm going to go red all the way to the back, blue started all the way to the front, and that's now going to be our color. You just have to hit enter, and it sets it in that base copy. Now front and back are still blue because I didn't want to include them in the gradient, but you want the back to be red. So this is the front and this is the back. So we can flip these. We can go to base copy. I usually would do this in layers, not actually in the base copy, but just showing you the gradient tool here. So what I would do here is I would grab the back of the car and actually use the fuzzy select tool. It's going to work better. So we're going to select none. We're going to fuzzy select that back section. Ooh, that picked up lots of stuff. Select none. We'll turn our threshold down a bit. Still not getting what I want here because it's a mask and it's all talking to each other. So we're going to go back to that other tool. And sorry for the delay here. We're going to grab this little section right there. Now we're going to pick this red. I don't know, well, it's this red, right? So it's that primary color red. And we're going to fill that section with the red. I'm just going to leave it in base copy for now. Normally I would make its own layer, but you see that the base copy is below the rest of it. So now I have a red tail, blue nose, and let's go ahead and export this. We'll put the logos back on, the pre-mades. We'll export it out to the car, and let's see what we got. Okay, there's your kind of a sky blue teal faded to a raspberry in the back. And as you notice, the back of the car, we can do a chase camera, is all red, and the rear chase shows us that the front is all blue. So that's kind of how you use a gradient tool. All right, what do we got next? Creating custom patterns the easy way. All right, if you want your own patterns, you can use any of these pre-existing patterns that are down here, right? But sometimes this pattern doesn't have anything on the back of it. So you want to put something, maybe you wanted something on the hood, maybe you wanted something on the tail. What you can do is you can find a pattern, turn off your base patterns for a minute, turn off your pre-made so you can see the car, and then turn your car patterns back on. You see how this one doesn't have anything in the back? It's just all in the front. What if you wanted to put something in the back? Go through your layers until you find something that you like on the back. And we're looking for something just specific. The rest of the car doesn't matter. We're just looking for something on the back, like a stripe or something that we can use. Let's see. It's kind of a gradient. There's a little notch right there. That little green segment right there might look cool. Let's see, just for fun, let's see what that looks. That's a lot more complicated. Might not find anything just on the back without having to rework the sides. Okay, so no, the answer is no. So we're going to go here, and we're going to pick these segments of green and put them on the back of the car. It's going to look weird, but you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about. And then if you ever feel like you have to do something like this, you'll know how. Okay, I'm going to use the fuzzy select tool. Remember, we still have that selected in the back. So Let's undo that. Let's go select none. And we're going to just pick the green from here and this little quarter, the C-pillar, the trunk lid, the other C-pillar, the other back fender, and then we need the back of the car. So now we've picked this section. You can see what we've got selected. And we're going to scroll back up to our base paints, turn them back on. You see what it's going to do. It's going to change the color of those sections. Okay. So white wouldn't work well because it's going to blend in with this white. Really, there's no color that's going to work well. So let's go into make a new layer. We're going to call it second layer. Drop it down below the hood, but above the base copy. Okay. And we're going to pick a color. And we're going to fill it up. Okay. So now we have a second layer, okay, that's going to sit on top of the base paint. All right. We're going to turn on the pre-mades again. And you'll see how weird this looks. It's going to actually look kind of strange, but there's lots of times, especially when I'm painting GT cars, that there's only something on part of the car and the rest of the car just looks bland. And it's really nice to be able to grab something off of another pattern and mix them together. There's nothing that says you have to take an entire pattern. You can even leave those off and make it just these colors. You don't need to have this extra blue layer on here. You can turn it on and off however you want. They're your layers. Do what you want with them. Select none. And if you don't like it, you can always just turn the layer off. Okay. Let's export this out to the car. It's cool because GIMP will remember where you last sent it. So you don't have to do export as every time. Once it's set with the right file, you just hit export to car. It'll send it out there. And there's even a hotkey. You can do Control E. So if you're really cruising along, you go Control E and it'll send it. And then you go to iRacing and Control R and it'll refresh it. So Control E, Control R. All right, let's take a look at what this looks like on TV. Okay. You can see we've got the raspberry in the back with the green layer kind of in there, making it look very, very odd indeed. But that's what you can do. You can change whatever you want on your paints. It's your paint, your layers. Move them around. If you don't like the green, turn it off. Export to car. Control R. It's gone. All right. So now you've got your car pretty much set. We haven't really gotten into logos yet. We're going to get into logos in the next video. But this is how you export it. Okay. You export it as a target file. You do it to the iRacing location under Documents. And to save it as an XCF file, you also need to save this, okay? Because you converted this from a PSD file when you opened it, when you got the file from iRacing. So now to save this, you have to go Save, okay? And now it's an XCF file. Find your spot wherever you're going to put them. I'm going to go to my Dropbox, my iRacing files, my vehicles. I'm going to go to my Cup Camaro, and I'm going to call this one Video Cup. Okay. So now it's going to save the file, and now you have it. So you can open it up later on. But that's it. That is what we're going to cover today with paints and patterns. Next up on our video number 3, we're going to get into logos, how to get them, how to place them, how to rotate them, move them around, size them. And then we're going to mess around with that pre-made layer that I've set up. All these little things in here, we're going to get into those and turn some on, turn some off. Make the car look like you want it to, because it really is your custom paint. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.